everyone? My name is Jack Saffel, back again with another WrestleMania review, and today I'm here for my WrestleMania 26 review. Now, about this review and the next reviews until WrestleMania 30, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I didn't watch these shows to refresh my memory in order to review them because we're getting so close to WrestleMania 34, and I don't feel like I have enough time to watch them all and to just do these long reviews and talk about, who was the America the Beautiful singer or who was in the Hall of Fame that year or anything like that. I just want to talk about the shows, and I'm going to base this off of just pure memory, which I'm happy I left for the last couple of WrestleManias, since I do have pretty fond memories of these WrestleManias and being around the build-up during this time and all that type of stuff. And we're going to start things off with WrestleMania 26. So from these next reviews until WrestleMania 30, don't expect me to talk about who sung America the Beautiful or who was in the Hall or any of that stuff. Just the matches that took place and the main shit that took place on the show. So we kicked off this WrestleMania with the unified WWE Tag Team titles on the line. At the WrestleMania 25, not even a kickoff show, the dark match, Carlito and Primo unified the WWE and World Tag Team titles together by beating John Morrison and The Miz. And so to kick things off for this, we had The Miz and The Big Show, who were called ShoMiz, defending the titles against John Morrison and R-Truth, who were on SmackDown, with Big Show and Miz being on Raw. And I can remember John Morrison getting knocked the fuck out by Big Show's KO punch during this match. And ShoMiz were able to retain the championship. And The Miz had a pretty good 2010 career-wise with the accomplishments that he received. He won Money in the Bank that year, and he even won the WWE title, which we'll get to next year's WrestleMania to talk about, unfortunately, that. But as for an opening match, I remember it not being that bad, but also not being that spectacular as well. John Morrison and R-Truth were just basically a thrown-together tag team, and they didn't really do much afterwards. And yeah, that was the opening match, and it was alright, I guess. After that was a triple threat match. Legacy imploding. Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes versus Ted DiBiase. So this whole build-up, I believe, Legacy was starting to fall apart around late 2009 and especially in early 2010. So during this build-up, I think it was in the Elimination Chamber match that Ted DiBiase was in. He was meant to help out Randy Orton, but he screwed him out of the match, basically, and cost him a shot at the WWE title, which caused Randy Orton to turn babyface, and he would later become babyface for, I think, the next few WrestleManias until WrestleMania 30, and he had one hell of a year in 2010. Like, after he would win the match, actually, he would win the triple threat match between Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. He would later on win the WWE Championship, I believe, at Night of Champions, and would be one of the big main eventers that year for Monday Night Raw anyway. So, yeah, the match itself was pretty okay. Seeing Randy Orton win at the time, I was happy with. I'd finally become a Randy Orton fan after booing him the last few years, because you remember I was the I love all the good guys, I hate all the bad guys type guy. So yeah, it was cool to see Randy Orton try out a babyface role, although I prefer him much more as a heel. But as for the match itself, it was pretty decent. After that was the Money in the Bank ladder match, which contained Christian, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Evan Bourne, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Jack Swagger. So I felt like this was a little bit clustered. I felt like 10 people is a bit too much for a Money in the Bank ladder match. I feel like 8 is a good enough number to get everyone in a match. But in WWE's mind, they need to put everyone on the WrestleMania card, which I don't get that logic. It should be saved for like the best of the best. But yeah, I guess that's just what WWE's mentality is. So the things I do remember about this match, there were some really cool spots in this match, though. I remember Kofi Kingston using the broken half of a ladder and using both ends of the ladder as stilts to get the title, which was really cool. And Evan Bourne hitting a airborne, which is like a shooting star press, off the top of the ladder onto Christian. But Jack Swagger actually ends up winning this match, although it takes him 20 fucking years to unhook the Money in the Bank briefcase from the fucking top of the from the top. And yeah, he won the match, which at the time I was not happy with because I wasn't a Jack Swagger fan. Now looking back, yeah, I'm still not happy that he won. He could have been great. I really think he could have been. He did win the World Heavyweight title after cashing in like 5 days after winning the Money in the Bank ladder match and becoming World Heavyweight Champion, which, yeah, Jack Swagger has to be probably one of the worst world champions in WWE history. I'm not knocking Jack Swagger. Like, he's not a bad talent at all or anything like that, but it's just the way he was booked as world champion, no one really took him seriously. I mean, he was facing guys like The Big Show and all that kind of stuff, and he ended up losing the title to Rey Mysterio in a Fatal 4-Way match at the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view, because this was during the time where WWE were rebranding all their pay-per-views into like match-exclusive shows like your Hell in a Cells and your TLCs, which started in 2009 and worked its way through 2010. And this would also be the last Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania. It would then get its own pay-per-view event in July later that year, and it has probably become the best the best match-exclusive pay-per-view I think the WWE has ever put out, because it kind of makes sense in a way. I would rather have it back at WrestleMania, but you know what? I'm kind of fine with it having its own pay-per-view and kind of being the fifth Big Four, or well, Big Five pay-per-views now if you count this. But yeah, as for the match itself, yeah, it was a pretty decent Money in the Bank ladder match. I wouldn't say it was as good as some of the other ones we've seen previous. But after that, we get to Sheamus versus Triple H. So the build-up, I believe, Sheamus had just lost the WWE Championship in the Elimination Chamber, and he was just targeting Triple H because I'm not sure, I think he cost him the match or something, but Sheamus had just burst onto the scene. He was in ECW for a while before debuting on Raw in October of 2009, and he would eventually beat John Cena in a tables match to win the WWE title. So yeah, and then the stuff at the Elimination Chamber happened, and yeah, I wanted Triple H to win because, yeah, Sheamus was a heel, and Triple H was one of my favorites at the time. Triple H had just gone on a DX reunion type thing with Shawn Michaels through the later part of 2009 and the early part of 2010. But he's all alone in this match, and these two had an okay match from what I can remember. Triple H ended up getting the win, and although I kind of feel like in a way maybe Sheamus would have been better getting the win because he was the new talent at the time, and this could have been a good opportunity to push someone. He was really cool as well at this time as the Celtic Warrior. It was really awesome to see someone like Sheamus burst onto the scene. But a month later at Extreme Rules, Triple H ended up losing to Sheamus in like an Extreme Rules type match, and we wouldn't see Triple H until around next year's WrestleMania. So after that, we had CM Punk versus Rey Mysterio in a really good match. I really liked the build-up for this as well. So CM Punk, in midway through 2009, turned heel during his feud with Jeff Hardy, and he kind of became this straight-edge messiah type gimmick. Like, he grew his beard out and everything, and he was basically saying, you know, if you're not straight edge like me, then you're basically a piece of shit. That was what he was thinking in his mind. And he got the recruitment of Luke Gallows, who was formerly Festus, but he got rid of his whole brain dead gimmick and became CM Punk's, not bodyguard, but like kind of tag team partner, I don't know. And also recruited Serena, who was picked out of the crowd and willingly shaved her head for CM Punk and kind of became on CM Punk's side. And they joined up to form the Straight Edge Society, and they were so good at pissing people off. Like, especially me, I fucking hated CM Punk during this time period, because I'm like, this motherfucker can just shave people's heads and thinks he's like the top guy. I remember in grade 7 at the time, I had a friend who was really into wrestling, and he had like a straight edge, like he had a thing about straight edge on his textbooks and saying, you know, how he was a member of the Straight Edge Society and how he will never touch alcohol and drugs. Like 2 or 3 years later, he started drinking and doing drugs. So High school. It does funny things to you. But as for the match itself, I thought it was a really, really good match. I felt like Mysterio and Punk had probably one of the better feuds of 2010, especially with CM Punk singing Happy Birthday to Rey Mysterio's daughter in just a very evil way. He wasn't doing it very sincerely. He was doing it to get under the skin of Rey Mysterio, and how he kind of said, you know, he wears a mask to hide his insecurities and stuff like that. And Rey wasn't having any of that shit. You come to his family, Rey's going to come to the defense and try to kick your ass. Rey's Avatar-inspired attire was also really cool. I did enjoy that. Avatar was, like, massive around this time period. Like, it was the highest-grossing movie of 2009. And, oh, no, it's the highest-grossing movie of all time. Like, yeah. And so he channeled that, which I thought was really cool. And competed in a very good match. Rey Mysterio got the win. And I believe that there was a stipulation that if Rey lost, he had to join the Straight Edge Society. But I know that was put in their Over the Limit match, where they had easily the best match on the show, and CM Punk had to shave his long hair off and kind of became bald for a little while and has since kept his short hair. So, yeah, great, really damn good match and a great story to go along with it as well. You know what wasn't good, though? Oh, my God. Vince McMahon versus Bret the Hitman Hart in a no-holds-barred lumberjack match. So the build-up for this has been going on probably since, like, the Montreal Screwjob. It goes way back to the Montreal Screwjob, and everyone knows what happened there. Vince screwed Bret out of the title at Survivor Series 97 against Shawn Michaels because Bret was leaving the company to go to WCW. Honestly, everyone knows what the Montreal Screwjob is. If you haven't, go research it. But around on the first Raw of 2010, Bret Hart made his return to the WWE. He hadn't really been seen for a long time, at least 12 years at that point. And he basically wanted to just put all that shit aside him and just bury the hatchet, call a truce, and just really just fucking move on with his life. And he did that with Shawn Michaels in a very emotional and one of the best moments of Raw that year. And he tried to do that with Vince McMahon, and at first it looked like Vince was more than happy to bury the hatchet with Bret, but no, he didn't, because he kicked him right in the nuts on Raw and basically said, you know, you deserve to be screwed. And and Bret wanted a match with Vince at WrestleMania, but Vince kept saying no and all that stuff. Like, Vince, he was just an asshole, because that's just what Vince is. He's an asshole. But what Bret does is he gets hit with, like, so he's going into a car, and someone backs their car into the door, one of the doors where Bret's foot hasn't gone into the car yet, and he ends up breaking his leg because of that. And so Mr. McMahon thinks, oh shit, now I can face Bret Hart because he'll be vulnerable, and it gives me an easy opportunity to kick his ass. So during the contract signing, which I believe Austin or fucking Chris Angel, because I remember this was the time when they had all the friggin' celebrity guest hosts, which thank God that's fucking over with. And Vince was like, yep, I'm going to sign the contract. It's all ready to go. And so when he turns around, the cast that was on Bret Hart's leg is on the table, and Bret's just looking at him like, you dumb motherfucker. You know, he said he set it up this whole time, and it was an actor to go along with it so he can face Vince at WrestleMania. So now it's all sealed, and how it's no longer Bret screwed Bret, and that will be the night Vince screwed Vince. And so Bret Hart is coming out to the ring, and Vince McMahon says before the match, it will still be the night that Vince screwed Bret and Bret screwed Bret, because he turns it into a no-holds-barred lumberjack match and brings out basically the entire Hart family to be lumberjacks, and makes Bruce Hart the special guest referee for the match even. And it looks like that the entire Hart family is going to go against Bret, but in a very, like, awkward type of transition. It turns out that Bret is saying, you know what, Vince, this has been our plan all along, and the Hart family is secretly on my side. And I don't think it was done that well, because there was no sudden, like, change to go, oh shit, we didn't see that coming. It was just, like, they just came out there to support Vince McMahon, and now, in a split second, they're on Bret's side. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. And the match itself was shit. It was pretty shit, man. It went for, like, 11 minutes, but still, there was some long-ass 11 minutes, man. Like, Bret was just smacking Vince with a chair, basically, and the Hart family, even the Hart dynasty with Natalia, were beating the shit out of Vince. And Bret Hart won the match in a match that was pretty fucking bad. It's not a match I definitely like to go back and watch. I felt like the storyline behind it was a lot more entertaining than the actual match itself. And yeah, if I had to pick like a worst match of the night, this would definitely be it, which is a shame. But Bret Hart obviously was not at the same level of wrestler as he was in the mid to late 90s. So yeah, and Vince has never been that amazing a wrestler as well. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame to see this match not really live up to the hype it had surrounded. So after that, we had the World Heavyweight Championship match, Chris Jericho versus the Rated R superstar Edge, where Edge was the babyface. And it's just weird for me to say, since Edge had just become just one of the best heels in all of wrestling, to now become a babyface. So Edge tore his Achilles tendon midway through 2009. He was unified tag champions with Jericho, and because of that, he had to relinquish his side of the championship and stay on the shelves. Jericho would later replace Edge with the Big Show, and they would become unified tag team champions for the good part of 2009, while Edge was on the shelf. And because of that, people built up a lot of sympathy for Edge, because he was giving a he was given a via satellite promo from his hospital bed about the injury and saying, you know, this is what we do, accidents happen and all that. And so Jericho just basically says to Edge, you know, you were the weak link in our team and I was always better than you from day one. And Edge says, you know, when I come back, I'm going to prove you and everyone else that doubted me wrong. And so at the Royal Rumble in 2010, Edge makes his return in just one of my favorite returns ever. I was so happy to see Edge come back at the Royal Rumble and basically win the whole thing, and I just wanted him to kick Chris Jericho's ass. And during that time as a babyface, he was just talking about, I'm going to hit you with the spear, 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 which I don't like that. As much as I loved Edge at this time, it's just, looking back now, the whole spear, spear, spear thing was just dumb, in my opinion. Like, why couldn't you have just said, I want to kick your ass, but basically just saying fuck you when I tore my Achilles tendon, basically. But the match was really damn good. Really, really damn good. But Jericho won the match after hitting Edge in the head with the World Heavyweight title when the referee wasn't looking, and pinning him to retain the championship, which he won at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which I'll get to when we talk about Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. So Edge wasn't happy about that, as he should have been. So he spears Chris Jericho after the match off of the announcer's table through the barricade, which was just crazy. But yeah, I thought the match was really damn good. Both these guys have just great chemistry with each other. They're two of my favorite wrestlers ever. And yeah, I can't really complain too much about that. So what I can complain about, though, is this 10 Diva tag team match. Who gives a shit? It was Alicia Fox, Layla, Maurice, Michelle McCool, and Vicky Guerrero versus Beth Phoenix, who's now a babyface, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, and Mickie James. Who gives a shit? The heels won. Yay, let's move on. After that was for the WWE Championship. Batista, heel Batista, defending against John fucking Cena. So Batista turned heel on the Bragging Rights pay-per-view in 2009 after turning his back on Rey Mysterio because he was supposed to be his friend. All that. So, yeah, Batista then, for some reason, after John Cena won the WWE Championship inside the Elimination Chamber, afterwards he had a match with John Cena and beat him for the title because, fucking, I don't know, McMahon wanted to screw over Cena. It made no sense, really, why Batista became WWE Champion, but him as in his heel run was actually very entertaining. I really think Batista really embraced his new heel gimmick with the whole, the spotlight should be on me, and all that type of stuff, and how he was basically jealous that how these two have basically very similar careers. Both of them debuted in 2002. They made their WrestleMania debuts at WrestleMania 20, and how they won their first world titles at WrestleMania 21. They have very mirrored careers. Like at WrestleMania 23, they both faced off against two legends for their respected world titles, like Batista against Undertaker and John Cena against Shawn Michaels. So it was almost, in some ways, a dream match, and although they already had that match at SummerSlam in 2008 when they were both babyfaces, Batista was now the heel in this situation. And so, yeah, he was just jealous that John Cena, despite all their mirrored careers, John Cena was the one that ascended to superstardom and not him, and that pissed off Batista, which is why he went after John Cena. So, as for the match itself, it was fine. It was alright. I believe there was, like, a marching band, or, like, one of those guys at the front of the marching band with, the batons and stuff, or, like, some sort of military-type shit, for John Cena's entrance. And, yeah, it was fine, entrance. As for the match, it was good. I wouldn't say it was great, but, yeah, it was good. He ends up making Batista tap out and wins the WWE Championship. So, yeah, John Cena wins his... I don't think it was his 10th WWE title. It may have been like his 8th or his 9th or something like that. But, yeah, John Cena was on his way to becoming just a multiple-time world champion. And, yeah, that's really all I can say about this match. Nothing too special here, but... what is special, though, was this main event. The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels in a no DQ streak versus career match. So, Shawn Michaels had just recognized that he had a fantastic match with The Undertaker at the previous year's WrestleMania, but it was still eating him inside that he wasn't able to beat The Undertaker. He knew deep down inside that he could do it again. So, at the Slammy Awards in 2009, he challenged The Undertaker to another match at WrestleMania, and pretty much says, and The Undertaker says, I will fight you on WrestleMania on one condition: you put your career on the line. And he says, you know what? If I can't beat you at WrestleMania, then I have no career. So, the match, just like last year, was fantastic. I didn't think it was as good as Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from the previous year's WrestleMania, but that's just a match that you can't really top something like that. It's too fucking perfect. But they did a great job following it, I feel like. Definitely on the edge of my seat. I had never been more conflicted watching a wrestling match in my entire life, because I wanted to see the streak continue. I've always been a person that thought the streak should have never ever been broken. But at the same time, I didn't want to see one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and a wrestler that means the fucking world to me, like Shawn Michaels, retire. So, it was a lose-lose situation for me. It was either lose the streak, or lose Shawn Michaels' wrestling career. And it turned out it was Shawn Michaels' swan song, because after Undertaker hits the tombstone on Shawn Michaels and wins the match, Shawn Michaels basically calls it a day, and after the match, he's forced to retire, obviously, and he waves to the fans and basically says thank you for everything these fans have done for him. So, I remember watching this match at my friend's house, and I just bought a WrestleMania 26 hoodie from, like, Big W. I don't know why that's crucial to the story, but I thought, why not? And, afterwards, I walked home. I walked from my friend's house back to my house, because he didn't live that far away from me. And I remember going home and just crying. I was just crying my eyes out, because, yeah, like, one of my wrestling heroes had just retired. It was just over, and it was heartbreaking for me. Haha, Heartbreak Kid, get it? But, yeah, that match is very important to me, and just to me as a wrestling fan, it was one of the most emotional moments in wrestling history for me personally. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget the night that Shawn Michaels retired. And that was it for this show. My match of the night main event, just explained why. How I'm going to rate this show, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on WrestleMania 26, and if you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. You'll be glad you did. Twitter and Instagram is at JackandManLaw31 if you want to check me out there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm out in 3, 2, 1.